Hi everyone, welcome back to my tutorial for the little coffin album that will fit in the Tombstone box that I designed for Country Craft Creations using Authentique's Nightfall paper collection. Before we get started in on this tutorial, I want to share a little bit with you about the album. As you see here in this photo, my Tombstone box is not completely closed, even with the chain closure there on the center. That is because I added the skeleton to the front of my coffin album. I glued him to the front, and I'm okay with this gap on here because I think it adds to the spookiness of the box. So this is what I wanted the look for mine, but if you don't like this gap on yours, you need to keep the front of your album flat. So do not glue the skeleton or anything thick on the front of it, as it will not fit. One other thing, this is not a perfect album as far as being perfectly straight and with all the pages even, because it is hand cut, including the covers. So if that's an issue for you, I suggest that you make a traditional square album that will fit in your your tombstone box, instead of making this coffin album. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to first show you what I used on mine. This is the Nightfall collection. I did use one collection for the tombstone box, and for the coffin album I did use all of the collection. For the coffin album, I'm going to use about 4 pages of the gray artisan cardstock that you can order from countrycraftcreations.com, and also 2 of the 12 by 12 chipboard sheets. For the cover, you might get by with just one by placing the template in a certain way. And you're also going to want a piece of white cardstock for a template. So this one is measuring about, you want it to be 5 1/4 inches wide by 7 1/4 inches tall. You will also want adhesive, and I'm using the Art Glitter Designer Glue from Country Craft Creations, and comes in handy if you have a temporary repositional tape or the zig glue like I'm going to be using on mine. So let's get our template ready. So we take this piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to score it in half at 2 5/8 on the 5 1/4 inch side. So I made a mistake here on my first score mark. It's supposed to be 2 5/8 to get it right in the center. So this is okay. This is a template, so it's not a big issue. Just go ahead and make sure that you did score it right in the center, and then burnish that down. Then grab a pen or pencil and your ruler, and you're going to mark your cut lines for this template. So I'm putting it in at the top. I'm going to put a tick mark, put the fold towards the left side of your scoreboard where you're measuring. Put a tick mark at 7/8 of an inch. Turn it with the tick mark to your left, and put another tick mark at 2 1/4 inches. Then you take your ruler and you place it from point to point that you just marked. Draw you a line. Grab your big scissors and just cut a straight line, as straight as possible. This is the top of the coffin. Now this coffin is made a little bit wider than maybe you would normally make, because I want it to be an album and I want to be able to put some pictures in it. So put the fold back in at the top to the left and mark another 7/8 of an inch. Take your ruler, place it at that 7/8 of an inch mark to the bottom edge of the straight edge you just cut. So this gives us that little angle for a coffin. Then take your scissors again and cut from that point all the way across this line. Unfold it and you will have a template in the shape of a little coffin. And now we need to add temporary or removable adhesive on one side only, so that we can attach this to our papers and chipboard and cut things out. So I'm using the zig and I'm applying it. It comes out blue. And to make it repositionable, you need to allow it to dry before sticking it to anything. And once it turns clear, it's repositionable once the blue is gone. So I'm going to let that dry. From chipboard, you will cut two pieces that are 5 1/4 inches by 7 1/4 inches long. And I've already cut a shape out of my template of chipboard. You need two of these for your front and back cover of your album. So I'm just lining it up at the top and the bottom with the points to the sides. Make sure it's centered so you get the full points. And I'm cutting mine with my large Tim Holtz scissors. You could use your cutter that you use for your chipboard. For smaller pieces like this, the scissors cut it out just fine. Just make sure you cut right along the template to get it as straight as possible. And I was able to get both these pieces out of just one 12 by 12 chipboard piece. So just go ahead and cut yours out. And then peel the template off so that you can use it for your pages. Set it aside so that you don't lose it. There we have the two, the front and the back covers. Now you will take one 12 by 12 cardstock out of the gray from Artisan Cardstock from Country Craft Creations. And I'm going to place these on here. I'll do one at an angle. What you want to be able to do is to place these on the paper so that you can cut all the way around on all the sides of the coffin shape, leaving about 3/4, ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch around all edges so that we can wrap it. So I'm just making sure. I'm going to glue it down, this one, and burnish it down with my hands. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and cut right along each line of it. About a half, I'm doing mine probably about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch from the chipboard edge. So this is to wrap our cover. So be like that. And then from this scrap here, you should have room to lay the other chipboard piece at an angle and have plenty of room to cut out so that you're only using one piece of your 12 by 12 cardstock. So go ahead and do the same thing with this one. Next, take one of your covers and just start folding along the edge on all the sides. This will help you to determine where to cut out on the cardstock so that you can fold and have a clean wrapped cover. So just go ahead and fold and burnish that down. Then take your smaller scissors, and where those lines are at, you're going to cut just up to the chipboard. So there's going to be little angle cuts, little sections coming out at each point. So we have those like that. Then you'll do it on the other end, the narrow end at the bottom. And just double check to make sure that you have not cut away too much or too little so that you have a nice corner there. So I'm just going to carefully trim just a little bit off here on the bottom. And double check it. And then cut out the sections on the other 2 points, that the widest section of the coffin. So I need to trim this one up a little bit too. So you want your covers to lay as flat as possible without exposing any of the chipboard. So I'm cutting out these other sections at the wide portion of the coffin. And double checking to make sure that they lay down correctly. So you see that's how we cut little corners out. Once you have those cut the way you need to have them, go ahead and refold the cardstock down over the chipboard. And then if you see any areas that kind of stick over, just go ahead and trim it down just a little bit more. And you can use score tape to attach this to your chipboard if you want to. I'm going to use the art glitter glue. I'm going to put a line of glue right down the edge of the chipboard onto the cardstock. And then I'm going to fold it over and burnish it down and hold it down until it sticks. And I tend to like to do the long sides first. And make sure you burnish those to make sure that they stick down well and are smooth on the edge. So I'm going to do the other side. And go ahead and glue all these sections down onto the chipboard. So this will be your front or back cover. You will do the exact same thing on the second piece to get these ready to be covers for your little album. Here's a cutting guide for the gray cardstock or whatever color you're going to be using in your album. Pause this section so that you can jot down all the measurements. But you will cut 4 each that are 1/8 inch wide by 12 inches for hinges. Then you will score that 1/8 inch side at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Then cut those down to 8 each 5 1/4 inch long strips. You will only need 7 of these strips, but you have an extra one just in case you need it. Then also cut 9 each 5 1/2 inch by 7 1/4 inch for your pages and your flaps. In the next video clip, you'll see that my hinges are actually 1 inch wide because I didn't cut them out right at the when I made my album, but the 1 1/8 inch wide is correct for you. Mine's just a little more narrow on one side and it still works out okay. So what we need to do here, you will see that I have scored mine. And these are all the 5 1/4 inch length. So go ahead and fold and burnish these so that you have 1/8 of an inch gusset between each of your hinges spaces. So this is how we're going to use these to attach our pages together and to attach them to attach the covers onto the front and back page. So you'll need at least 7 of these. Go ahead and prep the 8th one just in case you make a mistake and you need an extra one. For your pages and flaps, you will take the 5 1/2 inch cardstock that is 7 1/4 inches tall, and you'll take your template with the sticky removable adhesive on the back, attach it down to your cardstock. Make sure that you get it as straight as possible at the top and the bottom. So I'm just lining it up, and make sure you slide it over so that you have room for the points on each side, on the right and the left. And then just take your scissors, and I like to use again the long Tim Holtz scissors because it's easier to keep a straight line, and cut out each page and flap. So you're going to have a total of 6 for pages, and then 3, I use 3 for flaps. So go ahead and cut all of those in the same way, and each time take your template off and attach it onto another piece of the cardstock to get your pages and flaps cut out. Now we're ready to put our pages together using the hinges. This is where you may find it difficult to keep everything straight and perfectly lined up. Your pages may be cut just off just a little bit. Um, Once you put the hinges together, one page may stick out over just a little bit than the other or something. I'm fine with that because this is a Halloween project and I like them that way. I like them to be a little um, lopsided, if you will, or, you know, more Halloween to me, where it's kind of like spooky and not perfect. So here I have burnished these hinges, and you'll see that mine is a little bit short on one side, and that's okay, but yours will not be if you cut it according to the guide that I posted earlier here in the video. So you're going to take your first page, and it doesn't matter which side, but you're going to look at it that you're putting your hinge on the bright back side of the first page. So to make this easier to do, flatten down your hinge, flatten down that 1/8 of an inch so that you can line up the fold to the cut edge of the page. Now just make sure you're not putting glue on that 1/8 of an inch space. You always want all the glue to be on your 1/2 inch hinge sections. So I'm taking my little scissors, and just on the bottom side I'm doing a little angle cut so that it doesn't stick out when the book opens up. Excuse me. So here I'm grabbing my glue and I'm just putting it on the 1/2 inch section on one side so that the fold line will go to the right of the page, to the spine side. So you want your fold line always to be to the spine side of your pages. So I'm going to burnish that down, and you see once you burnish it and refold the score lines, you're going to have that little 1/8 of an inch space there, like you're supposed to. But we still need to add the second page. So flatten this down again so that you only see your 1/2 inch section, and apply glue to that. And then you're going to stack your second page right on top of that hinge. So just line it up, make sure you get it as straight as you can. This is where you may find that it's not going to be as perfectly straight as you want, and that's okay with a Halloween type project, especially this little Coffin Mini Album where it's not square pages and square covers. So just go ahead and line it up the best you can and burnish that. If you have to pull it up a little bit and adjust, go ahead and do that now. So we have our first 2 pages attached together, so you want to make sure you burnish that hinge in there. So you will continue to add pages in this manner. So you'll take these 2, you turn them to the back, and you're going to take a new hinge and attach it to the back of page 2. Then you will add page 3, and so on. So just continue to do that, using a new hinge to attach the next set together so that you want one page right after the other, and always remember to trim that bottom edge on the hinge that you're going to glue down. Once you have all 6 of your pages attached together and you re-square up your little 1/8 inch gussets there on the side, on the spine side, they should all match up pretty good here on the bottom, the top, and the sides. So just kind of playing with my 1/8 inch to make sure they kind of like all open up. And now we're ready to attach the covers, and they will be attached the same way as we attach the pages together. You're going to use hinges, one for the front and one for the back, to attach the front cover to the first page and the back cover to the last page. So just make sure that it's all squared up the way you want it, and then go ahead and get your covers and your remaining 2 hinges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the hinge to the front of my book, and then I'll flatten it down, keeping the 1/8 of an inch section clear of glue, and then I will glue the front cover to the hinge on this side. So I'm cutting the bottoms of these hinges just like we did for the pages at an angle, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue that on, and you will glue the back one on the same way. Just make sure you're putting your hinges or your cover edge to your spine side. You don't want to attach it on the wrong side, so pay attention to that. Everything should open with the spine to the left when the book is facing up at you. Here's another cutting guide for you that you can pause. You need to cut some more hinges from your gray cardstock. This is for the page flaps that you might add. I added 3 to mine, so I needed to cut 2 each 1 inch wide by 12 inch strips for flap page hinges. I scored the 1 inch side at a 1/2 inch and then cut these strips down so that I had 4 each that were 5 1/4 inches long, but I only needed 3 if you're putting in 3 page flaps. You might want to put in 4 page flaps. That's totally up to you, but I only use 3. So go ahead and cut those from your gray cardstock or whatever color you've decided to use. Decide where you want to put your flaps. I decided to put one on the very first page, skip a set of pages, put a flap, skip a set of pages, and put a flap. So you can put your flaps on any pages that you desire. So this is the first one. So what you do is you trim the end of your hinge, just like you did for pages. You're going to attach the hinge. Now you don't need your 1/8 of an inch gusset, so that's why these are just scored in half, and we made these 1 inch wide. So you glue one to whichever side of the flap that you want to attach it to your page. So I'm putting it on the back side, which would be on the back right side of the flap, because I want it to open out to the right side of page 1. I'm putting it on the front of page 1. So burnish your hinge, and then you will go ahead and glue that fold of that hinge along the cut edge of your page where you want it to fold out, and line this up the best you can. This is where I had a little bit of more trouble keeping things all lined up, and some of it kind of looked a little bit crooked, and that was okay with me. One other tip I forgot to mention is you don't want this page the exact size maybe of the page that you're attaching to, so on the flap on the side that doesn't have a hinge, just take your scissors and trim off about 1/8 of an inch so that it doesn't get hung up in the fold of the book. So go ahead and do that and attach your 3 flaps, or 4 if you decided on 4, into your book. So here I have this one on the front, and I'm just making sure that it does not go over into that 1/8 of an inch gusset. That's where it's important that it doesn't go into that. So if you need whatever you need to trim off that one edge of your flap, go ahead and do that if you need to. So I'm just double checking this to make sure that it all lines up in there and folds correctly and doesn't bend the flap. Okay, so there's the flap, and then I'm going to open up a little bit, and if you see some that needs to be trimmed to kind of match them up, make them a little straighter, it's okay to go ahead and trim whatever you need to do, like I'm doing here in this part of the video. Once you've added all your flaps into your album, then you're ready to cut out pattern papers to cover the pages, the front cover and the back cover, the inside and everything. So what I'm doing here is I've taken my template and I've trimmed it down about 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch at first, and then you may adjust that to however you want it, to have a smaller template for the patterned paper. So you want to be able to use this template to cut down your papers. I still had to trim some papers after I cut it out, but this kind of helps to give you a good guide on what to cut out. So go ahead and pick out the different patterns that you want to use for your front of your album, for the back side of the cover. You also want paper for the inside, and then you want one for each page and the front and the back of each flap. So go ahead and do that and cut this out in the same way, but you want your template to be cut down a little bit smaller. You don't want it the same size of your pages. You want a little bit of a margin showing around. In mine, I ended up having more of a margin in other areas, and I was okay with that. So you just have to play with it and see how you like it, how you want it to look in your album. Once you have all your pattern papers cut out, now would be the time to ink the edges if you want them inked. I'm using the Prima ink in the truffle color, and again I just use my ink pad to ink the edges because I don't like a whole lot on the edge on the front of the paper showing. If I do, I just kind of turn it at an angle so that a little bit comes out on the front. So go ahead and ink all the edges. Before you start adding any pattern papers to your covers, you need to decide what you want to use for your closure. You could use ribbons. I decided to use some more of the cheesecloth. I couldn't think what I called it. Cheesecloth, because it's pretty sturdy and I want it kind of look spooky. So I just cut 2 pieces of it and taped it to the front and the back with score tape. Here I'm just pressing the spines to make sure they start laying a little bit flatter there. And I'm just going to cover that with the paper. I chose this one with the tree roots or vines in the spooky orange, and I'm going to put that on the front and the back. So peel your tape backing off and then just use glue to attach your pattern papers to your front and your back. And then we'll go ahead and pattern the inside pages and the flaps. To create pockets on 3 of my pages, I did take cardstock and just cut it out the shape of the bottom of the page whatever height I wanted, and then glued it on the right and the left side and across the little narrow bottom to make a pocket. Here I am going to pattern this one. I've taken a full-size piece of the pattern paper, and I'm just marking the line where the pocket is, and I'm just going to cut this straight across. So I've already got the shape, so I'll use one at the bottom here for my pocket, and then I'll reverse and use the other at the top to pattern that page. So there you see the pocket that I did make out of cardstock. I apologize, I don't think that got on the video camera, but it's just real simple. You just take your template before you cut, or if you've already cut your template down to pattern paper size, you're just going to cut it a little bit bigger out of cardstock, and you just want the bottom portion. So however high you want it, you don't have to cut out a full piece of cardstock. So I use my scraps to make, I believe, about 3 pockets to go inside my album. So to go ahead and keep inking and putting pattern paper down on your pages, creating and patterning your pockets in this manner. I have all my pages patterned with the paper from the Nightfall collection by Authentique, and here I have a little bitty short pocket. I cut that one chevron piece too short, so I just took a scrap of paper and made a little pocket out of just pattern paper. So you can do that too if there's any place where you want to add an additional little tuck spot or little pocket. So we've got these all patterned, and I'm ready to decorate my album. So I had a lot of these little triangle scraps left over, and you will too after you cut some of your pages. And so I like how I could add contrasting patterns together and make it look like it's been pieced by just gluing those on top. So I've done that. Now here I'm going to show you how to make the hinge. So you're going to cut this out about 5 1/4 inches long out of any of the pattern paper scraps, and I made mine about 2.5 inches wide. And then I'm going to stub punch all 4 corners. This is going to make a cover for the spine. So I'm just grabbing my stub punch here of my chomper, and I'm just going to punch all 4 corners. You could use any kind of corner punch that you might have to give it a different look. I'm going to ink this. I just thought that this would look really good on the spine, the stub punch corners. And then later I will add another treatment to it to make it a little more spooky with some brads to look like it's got a hinge on it. So for now I'm going to add this on. I'm just going to apply glue to each side. There will be no glue attached to the hinges, or I mean to the spines of the pages. So you just want to attach it to the front and the back. This way when you open up your pages, they will lay flat. So here I'm just applying glue to the front section, the length of this piece of paper, and I'm going to attach that down onto the front. Make sure I get my pages lined up straight, and then just go ahead and attach this down and burnish it, and then pick it up. And now you need to make sure that your hinges are all your spine hinges are all flattened out and even as much as possible. So I'm using a clip to kind of hold that on that one side for me. And I'm sorry that this is off camera, but I had to bring it in just a little bit to double check it. So put your glue along the other edge, the length of it, and just bring that over to the side. And again, I have it in close so that I can see where I'm putting it, but I will show you once it's down. So burnish it down there on the edge, and wipe off any excess glue. I'm just checking it to make sure, and burnishing the other side as well. And you see it does have a little bit of a gap there where the hinges, where the spine is. And so when you open it up, it's still, your pages still lay down flat. And then you can just tie it closed with your ribbon or your webbing, whichever you use there on the side of your album. Here I'm going to show you how to make little tabs. For two of my flap pages, I took my 3/4 inch punch and punched out 2 circles. You do have to pay attention that it does not stick out into your 1/8 of an inch gusset. So put a little bit of glue on one side of the circle and attach it to the front of your flap page. Move it in so that it does not stick out too far over into that 1/8 inch piece. So you don't have much of a tab there, but it does just give a little indication that there is something that lifts open there. And then put glue on the back side of the other circle and just attach it down. So like I said, I did this on 2 of my flaps. On one of my flaps, I used some of the stickers that were tabs on the sticker sheet that comes with this collection. So go ahead and let that glue down. And so you do have your little tab there on that first section. And then I'm going to glue something on there. I don't know if I'll put the spider. This one's a plastic spider. He's kind of thick, so I don't think he's going to work. But I have some flat spider stickers that I picked up at one of the craft stores, so I'll probably use a lot of those in this collection. Here I'm showing you where I have the triangle pieces that are left over from scraps. You can trim them down more. And I'm just going to strategically glue these down on my pages in different areas to just give it this more of a tattered, spooky Halloween look. To me, it looks like maybe wallpaper that's been torn or something spooky like that. So I like the look of that, and I'm going to put 2 or 3 probably on each page, just depending on how I want it to look. So you're going to go ahead and add any of that you want, and then I will be decorating my cover and my pages off camera. I will share when I think that there's something that you need to know about. So just go ahead and have fun and enjoy creating with your little album. Here I want to show you how you could create some photo mats in the shapes that you might need to put on some of your pages in your Coffin album. So I did take my template once I no longer needed it for any of the pages and cut it down, and then cut pattern paper the size that I wanted it, and then glued it to cardstock and trimmed around it. So I just used my scissors and trimmed around it, and then glue it down onto this section here in the book. This is the inside cover. I really like these jack-o'-lanterns on this particular piece of paper, and I wanted that to be kind of the focal point there when you open up the book. So I'm not going to put a solid photo mat on here. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it this way, and then if I want to add a photo, I can. So here I'm on the front page now. I want to share with you how I added this brad piece. This is another large triangle cut out of scraps. It measures about, let's see, 4.5 inches long from the tip to the back, and then the base main height is about 3.5. So whatever you have that will fit there. And then I put the 3 brads, 1 at the point and 2 on the back, and just put it through that paper. And now I'm going to glue this, wrap it around, and glue it to the front here of the album so that the 2 are on the back and the point is on the front. So I just thought this kind of added to the look, bring in some darkness there on my spine section and make it look like a metal hinge type thing with the brads holding it down. So go ahead and apply glue to the backs of your brads and make sure the prongs are not sticking out beyond the triangle of the paper, and then glue this down onto your album. For my album, I made this Beware pop-up element to go in one of my flat page sections on the inside. So I cut a piece of cardstock that's 7.5 inches long by 3 inches wide, and then you will fold it in half. I've already made my pop-up element, but I'm showing you how to make the base for yours. Fold it in half and burnish. And then you're going to take your scoreboard, open it up, and put the 3-inch side into the top of your scoreboard. So this is your 7.5, and I'm just rescoring that in half right there on the center. I want a good score. So turn it and then score at a 1/2 inch on just one side. Take your piece and then take your scissors, fold it in half, cut a triangle up to the fold line, the 1/2 inch fold line here in the center, and then at the bottom, so that you have these placement wings for your pop-up. And so when you fold it, that will be what glues into your book. So I've already got mine done. What you would do now at this point is add your pattern paper to the front and the back here, and then also to the spine. Now, I did mine all in one piece. It made it a little thick. I'm okay with that, but I think you would like it better if you individually pattern each section so that it has a lighter fold. It folds easier. So it's going to be like that. And then I took the letters for Beware from the sticker sheet, attached them to gray cardstock, and then fussy cut out around them and attached them across the top of the pop-up element, and then added the spider sticker. Once you have your pop-up element ready, you're ready to put it in your book. So go ahead and select one of your double page sections. I'm using one of the flaps. I believe this is the second flap that I put inside my book, and it's going to fit right here. You want to make sure that the center fold where you have cut the V for the element will fit right over the fold of the pages. So here you will see that I cut out some of the video. I had glued this one in the wrong place. So I do have a mark there on my page, but I will show you how I fixed that. And now we'll go ahead and glue this in the proper place. I put it in the wrong direction, and it was actually sticking out of the book. So you want to make sure that your fold V goes down like you see here, so that when it folds up, the main part of the element goes to the inside of the book like that. Okay, so go ahead and attach your glue to the flap that will go down on the left side. And attach that to the left side of your double page. The one on the left is the inside of a flap that I attached. So I'm going to put it here at the top. And then you need to hold it and burnish it and make sure that it sticks down. And I'm going to turn this so I can get to it and burnish it really well and wipe off the excess glue. So you see that it's about an inch down on the far left edge of the element, an inch down from the top of the page. So then fold it up. So I'm checking to make sure that fold line is going to be on the fold. And now we apply glue to the other flap that attaches to the page. Sort of fold it down and reach in there and make sure that you're getting it so that the fold of the element is in the fold line of the page. So I'm going to hold that down. And you might have to hold this down a few seconds longer. I let go of it and tried to fold it in my book, and then I had to reattach it with a bit more glue or press it down and burnish it more. So right here when I fold it up, it wasn't quite ready to be folded up, but that's how it's going to look. So it pops up a little bit when I open the book. Right there. So I need to reattach that. There's still enough sticky on it that I can go ahead and attach and then hold it down and let it dry. And some more burnishing should help. So pop-up elements are a lot of fun. I did a Christmas one for Country Craft Creations with different pop-up elements that you might want to check out. It's a real fun way to add some interaction into your little albums. So now I'm ready to go ahead and fix the glue tear there on the left side that you see, and I'm going to select a sticker to place over that. So I'm looking at my stickers on the sticker sheet, and I have this little one, that little image that was inside of the photo frame, and I'm going to put the frame down below. So you can still put a picture in this if you wanted to, or you could leave it just looking like this for decoration. And yes, there's still some of that torn paper there showing, but I'm going to add a spider over that, and then everything will be completely covered up. So it wasn't an issue because I was going to be adding decorations anyway. So that works just fine. I love it. And so I'm going to go ahead and decorate some more of the rest of this. Just decorate your book with different elements that you like. And I will continue to work on mine and share with you different things that I do that I feel that is you need to know more about. So where I attached the skeleton there, I put the skeleton sticker on some of the gray cardstock, fussy cut around it, and then just glued it on the left side to make it a tuck spot. And then here I have created a little folded booklet out of the gray cardstock and put pattern paper on the front and the back. I'm just inking the edges right now. So just give me a second and I will bring it up where you can see it. So I have two pieces of paper that I'm going to glue to the little booklet. So one of them I had to recut. So I'm going to just glue this to the front and the back. I'm inking the edges right now. And you apply glue to the back side of your pattern paper. So you'll just have to measure your little booklet and make it the size that will fit into the area of your page in your coffin book, depending on what you're using for your tuck spots. So mine looks like it's about a 2" by 2" square. Okay, so there's a little booklet. It just tucks in like that. And then you could add something to the front from your stickers if you wanted to decorate it and finish it up. One more thing on your pop-up element page, if it doesn't lay flat in your book like you want it to, then you can add a clip, which is what I did. I decided to take a Tim Holtz clip and attach it to the top corner there for just that page, and the page behind it, and then added ribbons, a chain, and a charm, a spider charm to that. So it really added to the book, and so I like it that way, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, here are some more elements that I did. I decided on the back inside cover to make this little waterfall. These are really easy to make out of your scraps of pattern paper. I'm not using the cardstock because it will make it extra thick. Now I put in my little waterfall before I actually thought about showing you how to make it, but I'm going to show you separately on a different one that I may use in a card or another album. So I attach mine down straight onto the page, but an easy way to make a waterfall is to cut a piece of paper the width of your waterfall pages. So these are 3 inches by 3.5 or 3.25, I'm sorry. And then my closure piece is 3.25. Actually, it's 4 inches wide by 1.5. So that's the closure piece. So you take your papers that you're going to use for your pages, and you're going to score these. Because it's a small area, I'm going to score these at 1/4 inch on one side. So that's all I did right here. I've already done mine. I just scored them all at 1/4 inch. So go ahead and do that on all of them. I think I'm using 5 different little pages out of different pattern papers. Also score your closure piece at 1/4 inch, and then you burnish all the score lines. Then you have a piece of paper that is longer than what you need for your page. It's the same width, which is the 3-inch. And I'm going to line it up there, and you'll see that it is about also a 3-inch. Yeah, 3 inches long, 3.5. And so you pick your paper that you want to go first, the pattern that you want to be on your top, and line up all your pages. And you can use score tape, which would need to be probably the 1/8-inch wide score tape, but I am using glue. I've burnished all my fold lines, and I'm just going to put a line of glue, bead of glue here on the 1/4-inch hinge, and using my scoreboard, I'm going to line it in at the top of this base piece, which is longer than 3 inches. It has to be at least about 4, I think. I can't read my measurements here, and I don't have the book with me to double check. So then you take your second one and you put the glue on the same way. Now I'm not going to space these at the 1/4 inch. I'm going to do it in half, so there's only an 1/8 of an inch space from the top fold line of the first one to the top edge of the second page. But if you use your scoreboard this way on that scrap piece of paper that you have underneath, or that base piece, you can get your pages on just pretty straight, your little waterfall pages. So go ahead and keep doing that on all of them. Once you have all your little pages attached to the base piece, you can cut off any excess at the bottom to make it the same size as the last page. And here on mine, I had a little glue spot that stuck, so I'm just adding a strip of paper at the bottom of this one to cover that up. And then you will also glue your closure piece down to the base, the hinge part of it to the base of your page, so that it flips up over your waterfall pages. And then you will need to add a magnet. So the magnet would go on to the front of your page, top page, and then to the back side of your hinge. And I use the smallest magnets to make a closure for mine. You could also use ribbon, whatever you want to do for a closure on your little waterfall pages. If you do use the magnets like I did, you will need to cover those up. So I used a strip of paper at the top and another piece of scrap paper at the bottom to close these up. Then add any decorating that you want. I did a spider and some triangles, and then if you have anything that's sticking over, like a piece of your extra paper that you attached, just go ahead and trim that off real quick. Now I'm ready to decorate the front of my album, so I open it up so that the cover lays flat. I am going to glue the skeleton to the front with my art glitter glue. I glued the cut apart that I trimmed down to fit, which says, "Which better have my candy." I will also add a spider or two. I will make some black flowers. If you have any black flowers, you can use that. I made mine out of dried baby wipes that I sprayed with Tim Holtz black ink, and then I just cut out the circles and crinkled them up and glued those on the side, along with some of the cheesecloth to give it a spooky look. So you do what you want on the front of yours. Remember, if you want your tombstone box to close completely flat, do not glue the skeleton to the front of your album. Again, I'm okay with mine that it kind of gaps open, because I think that just makes it extra spooky. So this pretty much concludes this tutorial video. Like I said, I will show you a clip, a speeded up clip of the finished pages so that you can see what I did. I want to thank you so very much for following along. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you didn't catch the videos for the tombstone box, I do have the tutorial videos for that. Also, they'll be all in the same playlist. Encourage you to check out countrycraftcreations.com for your craft supplies, and have fun creating and share what you make with everyone. Have a great time. Happy crafting. Thank you again. Bye-bye.